Honourable members, please kindly get seated. May everybody kindly get seated, please. Honourable members, the President will lead the guests of honor into the chamber. I kindly request every honourable member and guest to please stand. Honourable members, distinguished guests, your special guest of honor, His Excellency Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission.
Excellences,
Your Excellency, Dr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency, Commissioner for Political Affairs of the African Union, Your Excellency, Commissioner for Trade and Industry of the African Union, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, speakers and presidents of the Senate and assemblies of the Pan-African Parliament, Your Excellencies, heads of diplomatic corps, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors and representatives of international organizations accredited to South Africa, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, members of Parliament. It is a distinct honor for me to welcome His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, and the delegation accompanying him. Most welcome to the Pan-African Parliament. The Pan-African Parliament has for some time felt sidelined by the Commission, with which it should collaborate closely to implement the African Union agenda. Dr. Moussa Faki Mahamat is a very varied person that I would like, which needs no introductions. However, he has been part of all the struggles of the Pan-African Parliament. He was one of the artisans of the adoption of the Malabo Protocol when he held the position of Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Chad. He did not only do this effort for the Protocol of Malabo, but Dr. Faki Mahamat is one of the pioneers who drafted the Constitutive Act relating to the Pan-African Parliament. He is therefore knowledgeable about our institution. Your Chairperson of the African Union Commission, as you are visiting your Parliament, allow me to say that out of the 55 member states of the African Union, you have in front of you 53 states who are in attendance. This mobilization is indeed due to your efforts, but this mobilization augurs well for a brighter future. The members of Parliament have a certain number of concerns about their institution, which seems to be stagnating. The member states don't want to ratify the Malabo Protocol, but the very identity of the Pan-African Parliament is also called into question. To this attest the fact that a few years ago, in the beginning of this Pan-African Parliament, the members of Parliament had a diplomatic laissez-passer. And given the efforts we've made, these parliaments later were given diplomatic passports. But a few days before you traveling to Midrand, we had to note that the diplomatic passports have given way to laissez-passer again. So this situation is raising questions. Are we truly the members of Parliament of Africa representing the African people? Your Excellency, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, no matter related to the Parliament will be unknown to you, and we cherish the hope that all the right solutions will be found during your term in office so that the Pan-African Parliament can fully perform its duties. Your Excellency, Mr. Chairperson, I don't want to overshadow you because it is your day today. Just let me say at this juncture that the members of Parliament here and our invited guests are very eager to listen to you because you are bringing a message of hope. This is your day, so I don't want to belabor this, and I want to give you the honor. Long live the African Union, long live the Pan-African Parliament, long live Africa.
Thank you very much. L'ordre du jour appelle.
The order paper now provides for the messages of solidarity. The first message of solidarity will be delivered by Mrs. Anna Batili, Head of Global Parliamentary Engagement from the World Bank. Madam, your commitment in favor of the members of Parliament of the world is well known. I therefore would like to give you the floor that in a few minutes you can give us an overview of your actions that will be beneficial to our Parliament. You have the floor, Madam.
Excellence, Monsieur le Président.
Your Excellency, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mr. Faki Mahamat, Your Excellency, President of the Pan-African Parliament, honorable members of Parliament, dear invited guests and friends, it is a great honor for me to address you today. And I would first like to express my appreciation to the President of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Roger Nkodo Dang, who through his leadership has continued to improve the influence of the Pan-African Parliament. And I know this has not been easy. Congratulations.
Now, as the only continental parliamentary body in the world, you, the Pan-African Parliament, with 250 members from around 50 nations, stand as a very valued partner for the World Bank Group, both for your number and diversity of your representatives, as well as the priorities of the African Union you represent, such as inclusive growth and sustainable development, global good governance, and respect for human rights. As parliamentarians, you are crucial partners for the World Bank Group. You shape development policies. You approve budget and hold your government accountable for World Bank finance programs. For the year 2017 only, the World Bank Group invested $17 billion in Africa. And this cannot be done without the support of you parliamentarians, because you are in direct contact with those we want to serve, those who are the neediest, which are our populations. Once projects do begin, you help monitor their implementation to ensure local ownership. This makes you essential at every step of the way. In addition, our engagement with parliamentarians fulfills our commitment to citizen engagement by effectively integrating the citizen's voice into programs for lasting development results and achieving 100% beneficiary feedback on all World Bank finance progress. This is why the World Bank has a parliamentary engagement team dedicated to providing you with platform for dialogue and information sharing with development experts and the World Bank senior experts, as well as with your international peers on today's most pressing development issues, to encourage multilateral and interparliamentary cooperation, which is at the heart of our engagement today. Interparliamentary cooperation, such that in our program, as well as right here at the PAP, plays a crucial role in development. Cooperation with parliamentarians allows parliamentarians to stay informed on both African and international issues. You can gain a broader understanding of issues from your peers, including different positions, to better evaluate your national position. Cooperation can also lead to coordination among parliamentarians to harmonize policies and measures among your national parliaments and make you complementary, which is a main function of the Pan-African Parliament. Finally, cooperation among parliaments can serve to exchange experience and best practice for impactful policies and effective programs to encourage economic growth and development. We see this time again in our Global Parliamentary Conference, parliamentary workshops, or during field visits to which you all members of the Pan-African Parliament have been participating and have been influencing the shape of our policies. I am sure that Sub-Saharan Africa has the youngest population in the world. About 60% of the population is under 25. This surge in working age population represents a great opportunity for economic transformation and growth, but also a potential risk as the workforce is the least trained in the world, which could result in high rates of unemployment leading to conflict and violence. We are hearing similar stories from across the globe. Growing population, coupled with the looming threat of digitization and automation, are creating a perfect storm on unemployment and risk, placing governments, international organizations, and companies, but also organizations such as the Pan-African Parliament, in a virtual race against time to create more and better jobs. And you have a crucial role to play in terms of legislation for employment. Because of these, jobs and youth jobs in particular are at the forefront of the development conversation today. To give you some examples of what we are doing at the World Bank Group, just last month, our Global Parliamentary Conference included a half-day parliamentary session on policies to create youth jobs, which brought together parliamentarians, some of your members, youth leaders, entrepreneurs, and NGOs to discuss policies and propose legislation to support youth job creation. The upcoming 2019 World Development Report will focus on the changing nature of work, and it will explore how changes such as technological progress, globalization, shifting demographics, urbanization, and climate change are impacting work across the globe, and what actions that individual companies and governments can take in response to these changes. The evolving landscape of work is creating shifts in the priorities of education, as well as the demand for infrastructure, stretching already spare public funds even thinner, which is why, whenever possible, the World Bank partners with multiple stakeholders and looks for private funding to maximize finance for development and save precious financing for where it is needed the most. One infrastructure program that I feel speaks volume about the power of such multilateral cooperation and is perfectly in line with the Pan-African Parliament's mission is to ensure the full participation of African people in the development and economic integration of the continent. It is the West African Power Pool program, for instance. The reality is that in Africa, access to electricity is only at 52%. With up to 80 hours per month of shortage. What's more can we do collectively to reverse that situation? The multiple benefits of programs such as the PAP demonstrate while populist sentiments are surging in many regions of the world, especially in Europe, Africa is embracing unity and multilateralism. We'll be moving towards a full legislative body, and you can count on all our support for that. I will just finish with this African proverb. L'adage français dit, non, l'adage plutôt africain. Je le dis en français.
I will now be speaking in French. There is a saying that says, if you want to go quick, go alone, but if you want to go far, let's Zimbabwe. She was here as a member of parliament, and she was the chairperson of the Southern African Caucus. The First Lady, Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Honorable Rojankodo Dang, President of the Pan-African Parliament, Vice Presidents of the Pan-African Parliament, fellow chairpersons of the Northern, Eastern, Central, and Western Caucasus of the Pan-African Parliament, colleagues in the Permanent Committee on Trade, Customs, and Immigration Matters, honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. V.P. Arawa, Clerk of the Pan-African Parliament, officials of the Pan-African Parliament, staff from our various parliaments, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable President, I stand before you today with a heavy heart to pronounce the book of Ecclesiastes in chapter 3, verse 1 says, "There is a time of everything and a season for activity, and the heavens," I do unquote. Indeed, October 2015 was my time to interface with you when my parliament seconded me to be a member of this august body, the PAP. The close of the 6th ordinary session of the 4th Parliament of the PAP marks the end of my pleasant sojourn. Honorable President, I'm leaving the PAP with invaluable knowledge and experience, which I'll always treasure. I'm coming out of this work group a better person, and am thankful to you individually and severally for the skills you so generously imparted in me. To that end, I'm indebted to Honorable Roger Nkodo Dang, the President of the PAP, my colleagues in the Southern Region Caucus, colleagues, both male and female parliamentarians, colleagues in the Permanent Committee on Trade, Customs and Immigration Matters, and colleague chairpersons in the Northern, Eastern, Central, and Western Caucasus, as well as the Clerk of Parliament and his entire staff. I appreciate your priceless support as being with you in this chamber and various forums across the continent helped mold me into the person I am today. I have learned how to take direction and criticism with gratitude and calmness. It is not easy to chair the regional caucuses, and my colleagues, chairpersons, will testify to that. But with their support, the task became manageable. I've also learned to be minded and to value other people's opinions and contributions. Being a member of such a wonderful family brought together by the motto, One Africa, One Voice, and the values of Ubuntu, inculcated in me vital skills for my new role in Zimbabwe. I've come to realize that being part of a team means a lot more than just sharing credit, but that it is about teamwork and calls for a lot of give and take, and in the process, modification of one's original views. When you are in a team, you have to, at times, lead, follow, and more often than not, meet in the middle. Honorable President, if I could stay here forever, I would gladly do so. But my new constituency is now the entire 16 million people of the Republic of Zimbabwe. As mother to such a vast population, I need to stay closer home and take charge of the various initiatives that I'm spearheading in the interest of turning around the fortunes of the Zimbabwe people and enhancing their livelihoods. Pursuant to this trust, I launched the Angel of Hope Foundation on 17 February 2018. Honorable President, I wish to pledge my utmost support for this Parliament and urge you to continue working hard for the realization of Africa's aspirations as contained in Agenda 2063. I have fond memories of the robust and quality debates in this chamber. These and many other exciting moments will forever remain etched in my mind. In the same breath, honorable members in this chamber will remain in the center of my heart. Finally, allow me to round off my farewell speech by quoting from the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 11 to 12, where Paul states, "Finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice. Aim for restoration, comfort one another, agree with one another, live in peace, and the God of love and peace will be with you." I wish you fruitful deliberations during this session and beyond. I thank you. Merci beaucoup. Muito obrigado. Diabonga. Tatsenza.
Thank you, Madam First Lady. We wish you all the success in your new duty. And now I want to give the floor to His Eminences, Ionis, who is Archivect of Zambia and Malawi. Excellency, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Roger Dang, His Excellency Dr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, President of African Union, dear beloved brothers and sisters, the Parliamentary Assembly on Orthodoxy, IAO, is celebrating its 25 years of activity, and it is a great pleasure for us to participate in the 6th ordinary session of the Pan-African Parliament. The IAO cordially wishes you ongoing success and substantial contribution to the political reality of the great continent in Africa. We wish you success in the works of your session, peace throughout the world, and personal happiness to each and everyone personally and to every African citizen. The Parliamentary Assembly on Orthodoxy has the unity and fundamental freedoms for Christians and Muslims in the Middle East. The IAO will have the pleasure of the attendance of His Excellency, the President of Pan-African Parliament, and to the International Forum for the Development of Parliamentarism, which will be in Moscow between 4th and 5th of June 2018. Your Excellency, Mr. President, Mr. Sergei Popov, the President of the General Assembly on Orthodoxy, and Secretary General Mr. Andreas Michaelidis have asked me to hand deliver to you the invitation for your participation to the 25 years anniversary General Assembly held in Athens, Greece, between 20th and 30th of June 2018, with subject parliamentary democracy and Christian values, 25 years of the Parliamentary Assembly on Orthodoxy. Thank you very much. God bless you all. God bless Africa.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. The Archbishop is the coordinator of the Interparliamentary Congress on Orthodoxy in the world. And now I want to invite Dr. Abu Hosseini, the Speaker of the Comorian Parliament.
In
the name of the Almighty, Excellency, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki Mahamat, President of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Nduko Dang, Madam Bete, the Speaker of the South African Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished representatives of international organizations, the heads and presidents of African institutions, honorable members of Pan-African Parliament, invited guests, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in this opening of the 6th legislature of the Pan-African Parliament, marked by others the swearing-in ceremony, formalizing the of the first batch of Comorian members of parliament into the Pan-African Parliament. It is with a great feeling that I have witnessed this very emotional moment. But as the saying goes, all's well that ends well. What today appears to be the end, but it's rather just a step. It's the prelude for a major parliamentary adventure for the Assembly of the Union of the Comoros, which henceforth should integrate in its agenda the priorities of the parliament. Indeed, the Comorian parliamentary institution, by joining this continental parliament, and if need be, confirms that you are translating words into deeds, and therefore the Union of the Comoros and its avowed and, as you presumed, Pan-Africanism. On this occasion, I have the pleasure to carry out a pleasant duty, that is to convey to the President of the Pan-African Parliament the warm greetings of His Excellency Azali Assoumani, President of the Union of the Comoros, and to wish full success to this session of the Parliament. In the same vein, I would like to reiterate my sincere gratitude to all those who directly or indirectly have kindly supported us in our approach, in our action to join the Pan-African Parliament. I think President Dagan, a few over many years, and who through his personal commitment, and he should be thanked for his action. I want to pay tribute to the ambassador of the Comoros to the African Union for his consistent commitment to this cause, which has become over the years a kind of obsession for him. Mr. President, dear colleagues, members of the Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, the challenge that the African Union has to take up justified on a daily basis the urgent need that is to provide the African Union with an organ with a parliamentary action. To this tool, the African Union is taking a further step for Africans. African citizens who are becoming the real citizens of the continent with rights and also obligations to carry out on regarding a common ideal. To honor these commitments, the African Union needs a strong parliament that is ready to give its voice, a pluridisciplinary parliament, and obviously that will obviously reflect the automatic national reflex actions. And this is how the African Union will succeed in attaining the objectives of Agenda 2063, which has been laid down by the African Union. It is at this price, and it is only at this price, that important projects like the free movement of persons, of goods and services on the continent, like the project like the African and Monetary Union on the continent will be able to emerge from this situation for the well-being of the peoples of Africa. Mr. President, distinguished members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, as I was saying earlier on, we have to face and take up many challenges with major problems. If there is a commitment that I can make from this spot, that is the Assembly of the Union of the Comoros should work relentlessly to implement the Malabo Protocol to make the Pan-African Parliament a legislative organ that can govern the destiny of the African Union and its organs. The Comorian members of parliament, together with their colleagues from the four corners of the continent, will endeavor relentlessly for the consolidation of democracy, observance of human rights, and also good governance and sustainable development of the continent. The Pan-African Parliament will or can always rely on the determination of the members of parliament of the Comoros in order to relay its message when its recommendations and directives have to be implemented in line with the target that has been laid down by the African Union and the Pan-African Parliament. Mr. President, members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen, our august institution has chosen as theme for this ordinary session the fight against corruption. It is a relevant theme which will mobilize and galvanize all the countries and will leave no one behind. The corruption which is ravaging the African economies continue to undermine the efforts that have been made in order to improve administrative and financial administration and the governance of our continent and its institutions. Today, the studies and other reports that have been prepared by specialized organs like Transparency International converge to say that Africa is, in fact, lagging behind in the fight against this scourge. It is high time, therefore, that the parliamentary institutions should prevail and also to take position to be in the forefront of this struggle. We, therefore, need to provide our countries with the legislative organs and instruments that can be a deterrent and also repress this scourge, and also encourage transparency as the absolute standards for the management of public affairs, and this should be strengthened, that is upstream, with education, sensitization, mobilization of the public affairs and public life. Indeed, the fight against corruption is, of course, not very attractive, but nevertheless, some countries have made significant progress and are doing well. And out of this experience, we can obviously draw inspiration. I am convinced that the fight against corruption, just like the fight against terrorism, will be in fact taken the step that is to shed light what we call the issue of economic citizenship, what we call in our country. The naturalization of resident stateless people who are in the Gulf and other countries. The report that have been submitted to the national authorities have also, over the past 9 years, has pointed out the financial scandals with international ramifications. The Assembly of the Union of the Comoros is happy with the action, that is to give it a judicial nature so that this problem can be dealt with on South African soil. It is also an opportunity for me and my delegation to welcome the valiant people of South Africa, known for its legendary hospitality and its sense of brotherhood. Long live the Pan-African Parliament. Long live the African Union in peace and harmony, and I thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Excellence, Monsieur le Président.
I thank the Speaker of the Assembly of the Union of the Comoros. Now I would like to call on the last speaker in this series, that is Senator Ngo Adondo, who is also the acting Speaker of the Parliament of the DRC. You have the floor, Mr. Speaker.
You have the floor. Hein? Où est le président, pardon? Non, Swaziland. Non. Président du Sénat de Swaziland.
The President of the Senate of Swaziland, you have the floor.
Vous savez, le nom a changé.
Well, Swaziland has changed, and I am talking of Swazi.
Chairman of the African Unity, Your Excellency, the President of the Pan-African Parliament, honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, and all protocol observed. Honorable members, I bring the greetings from the Kingdom of Eswatini. I understand you know Swaziland, we're no longer Swaziland, the colonial name is Eswatini. And I bring the greetings from the Queen Mother and the entire Swazi nation. Sanbonani Nonga. My duty and my task is simple, Your Excellency, is to congratulate the newly members that has been sworn in today, and it marks the growth and the growth of the Pan-African Parliament family. Your Excellency, I have also witnessed the history being made today, whereby you rightly said that we have the family from the Morocco. They've now been newly sworn in, so congratulations, Morocco, to be part of the Pan-African family. We believe, Your Excellency, that they will advance the interest of Africa and diligently serve the continent. Our task is to take this continent to another level. Africa has always been looked down, and we have no, so all the tasks and the duties, it is incumbent upon you, members of the Pan-African Parliament, to raise the flag. Let us take our position now in this world. We have been a continent that has been undermined, and by your presence here and by the growth of this family, we believe that Africa will soon take its rightful position and become one of the respected continents in this world. May the good Lord bless you all as you take your task that has been given unto you from this day on. We look forward that the Pan-Africa will take its strides. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Merci beaucoup.
I thank the President of the Senate of Swatini, Professor Mohamed El-Shanu, is a member of the delegation and also a member of the delegation of the Chairperson of the Commission. I would like to request the Chairperson of the Commission of African Union to tell us a bit of his vision of the union that is leading the Commission. So it is now time to listen very carefully to the statement of Mr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, who has graced us, and I would like you to acclaim his presence. Honorable President of the Pan-African Parliament, honorable members of the Pan-African Parliament, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen. 18 March 2004 to 7 May 2018 These are 14 years that the Pan-African Parliament, which through its existence and its dynamism, has been contributing to reconfigure the institutional landscape of our continent with the inception of the African Union. Time has flown by, and this honorable institution continues to include in its track record marks of success. I'm happy to be here to meet with you in South Africa. This country whose history has been written with tears, blood, selflessness, courage, but also an extraordinary capacity of transcending and also to forgive in order to make it possible. That is what was the spirit of the struggle of Nelson Mandela. The rebirth of the nation, which is nourished by values of humanism and tolerance, this rainbow nation. May I present my tribute to President Cyril Ramaphosa and to his government and the South African people for the generous hospitality accorded to the Pan-African Parliament. I'm grateful to you for affording me this opportunity through this solemn ceremony to address the Pan-African Parliament. My presence here, the first since I took up office as the chairperson of the Commission of African Union in March 2017, contributes to the approach that I want to adopt in the conduct of our heavy and exalting responsibilities that our leaders have entrusted to me. I intend to interact with all in the African Union. The synergy of action between the different organs and structures of the organization is the only guarantee to attain the objectives that we have laid down in Agenda 2063, that is to give back the golden letters of Pan-Africanism to Pan-Africanism and also fully harness the intelligence of our continent and also develop the potentialities. It is also an opportunity for me to benefit from your wisdom and your experience, to draw inspiration from your faith and your Pan-Africanist commitment. I wait for your words and statements, as it should be done by any parliamentary institution that respects itself, that these be looked at in a very critical manner in order to identify the imperfections, the dysfunctioning, and other drawbacks that exist in our organization in order to give it a new impetus. Honorable President, ladies and gentlemen, the launching and the inception of the African Union in 2002 marked a major step in the march of our continent towards greater integration and unity. This action testifies to the commitment of our leaders of the continent to take into their hands the destiny of our continent by finding the adapted responses to the challenges that we have to take up. Nothing shows that this determination to promote African solutions to African problems and is not better shown by the establishment of such organizations as the Peace and Security Council, NEPAD, the peer review mechanism, the Human Rights Commission, only to mention these. The advent of the African Union has also marked a greater awareness of the need to involve more effectively the African peoples in the management of the affairs of the continent. The ambition of the Union is a collective ambition, and its fulfillment demands the involvement of everyone. From this viewpoint, the Pan-African Parliament occupies a very special place in the institutional architecture of our Union. It is by excellence the organ that is to convey and voice out the feelings of the African peoples and ensure the concerns of these are adequately taken into account. I would like to point out here the remarkable action led by the Pan-African Parliament in different areas, despite the multiple constraints faced by the Parliament. I am aware, distinguished members of Parliament. I welcome the decision of the Parliament to organize annually a debate on the theme that has been adopted by the heads of state and government, that is to orient the priorities of our union. In so doing, your institution is given a greater voice to the concerns that have been expressed. The debate that has been organized by the Parliament on the report of the high-level panel led by former President Thabo Mbeki on the illicit financial flows is an invaluable contribution to the theme that has been adopted for 2018, that is the fight against corruption. I encourage all the members of the Parliament to discuss this issue and the theme in their respective assemblies and Parliament. The organization by the Pan-African Parliament of a meeting on youth in Khartoum in Sudan in November 2017 has been another example of the synergy that exists between your institution and the organs of the Union. 2017 was, as you're aware, the year of African youth, with the theme that is to harness the demographic dividend by investing in youth. I am pleased to contribute and stress the contribution of the Pan-African Parliament to other causes of the continent, particularly the advocacy to lift the sanctions and other measures taken against some of our member states. These actions of parliamentary diplomacy are the natural supplement to the efforts carried out by the Commission and other organs of our Union. Honorable President, ladies and gentlemen, when the Pan-African Parliament was established, the objective was to provide it with and give it full legislative powers after 10 years. The adoption of the new protocol in June 2014 specifically opened the way to this development. But 4 years after this instrument is still come into force, this situation reflects a more general problem, that is not to make our decisions effective, which impacts on the credibility of our commitments and undermines our efforts. Since the inception of the Organization of African Unity, some 60 legal instruments have been adopted, focusing on various areas, going from peace and security to development and economic integration, through human rights, good governance, gender, environment, youth, culture, institutional development of a union, transport, cross-border cooperation, and others. If the adoption of these instruments bears witness to the political will, that is, to give greater impetus to inter-African cooperation, we have also to recognize and accept that the considerable delay in having these instruments into force, in fact, creates legitimate doubts. Out of the 50 instruments, more than 20 have not yet entered into force because it did not obtain the necessary required number of ratifications. The most emblematic case in this, it is Inter-African on Justice and Human Rights, which is called the Malabo Protocol, has not been ratified by any member state 4 years after its adoption. That is, we really cannot understand, because our Constitutive Act is very clear on the issue of impunity, and we obviously have shown our determination to take into account this exigency and our refusal of an international justice for political reasons and because of the various forces have made Africa the ground of that is for an attempt to have these problems hidden. Indeed, as some have entered into force, in fact, they have become universal on the continent. And yet, the overall situation remains alarming, and it cannot go on lasting for long. unless you want to run the risk of weakening irremediably the architecture that we have built and laid down and lose the credibility and legitimacy even in the eyes of our peoples. We should do everything and do more in order to translate into deeds our words. The Commission will, in fact, strengthen its efforts in terms of advocacy. And I never miss any opportunity when I meet the leaders of our member states to echo this concern. From this viewpoint, nothing is more urgent than the entry into force of the legal instruments relating to continental integration, particularly the African continental free trade area, the free movement of persons, and the African passport. Mr. President, members of Parliament, we are working on the African passport, and who deserves this more than you? And obviously, this will be done. We have all been happy with the impetus given by the extraordinary session of the summit. Commitments will be supported by the free, for air transport to integrate them into their legal systems. Honorable President, ladies and gentlemen, I'm addressing myself to you at a moment of more concrete form to our aspirations through the implementation of Agenda 2063. Since my taking up office, I have endeavored to move forward these areas and to make our member states aware of these ambitions. With regard particularly with the financing of our union, you know better than anyone else that the situation of excessive dependency on our international partners, we appreciate their generosity of the partners, but this situation cannot continue forever. It undermines our capacity to take decision and to take action, and will deny our African leadership, the continental leadership, and the African ownership of everything that we want to do. We are happy to state that the heads of state and government have given strong attention to this matter by imploring all the member states to impose a levy of 0.2% on eligible imports in order to come up with the financial autonomy which is indispensable. I would like to point out that to date, 22 member states are in an advanced stage of implementing this levy. As regards the Peace Fund, more than $40 million have been mobilized, which is the highest amount that has been mobilized since the establishment of this fund in 1993. There is no need to overemphasize the importance of the role of the Pan-African Parliament so that the financial autonomy of our union can become a reality. It behoves you, as members of this organ, to exercise in your respective countries and carry out the necessary advocacy with your governments and to remind them relentlessly their obligations. At your request, tomorrow here itself, the head of the reform unit will be giving you more detailed information on the contents of the ongoing process of reforms. Honorable President, ladies and gentlemen, the exception. In South Sudan, whose independence was welcomed with great hope, since the people have been going in and its energy. Elsewhere, the scourge of terrorism continues to ravage the members of Parliament. Let us be determined and redouble efforts in order to prove the skeptics what is wrong on the African continent. In order to succeed, we need to fully take ownership of our peace efforts. This means, first of all, that is to win the intellectual struggle, that is to analyze rigorously our problems in order to identify the most appropriate solution, but is far from the foreign interference and ready-made solutions. This means that by drawing from our own resources and in a substantive manner the activities that are linked in our quest for peace, security, stability of the continent. This means, finally, that our partners, international partners, should be in the service of our objectives. That is, the role of the international community should be clearly circumscribed, that is, to support our efforts through an advantageous and respectful partnership instead of replacing Africa and to be a substitute and to dominate the continent. Honorable President, ladies and gentlemen, apart from this daily action which have been carried out in order to solve on a daily basis the conflict situations, our efforts should be also on the establishment of peace and stability on the continent. In this regard, I will never get tired of underscoring the importance of the values of good governance, democracy, and observance of human rights, as well as gender equality, the emancipation of women, and also the youth associations and in the service of their government. Our union has all the necessary legal instruments, and therefore the priority is not to legislate, but rather to mobilize stronger political will so that these can be implemented. In this area as well as others, that is the sensitization of the Pan-African Parliament, we don't have to make any comment on it. Members of Parliament, you are the representatives of your national voters and wards. Therefore, I would like to request you to join our efforts in order to give a new impetus of integration in Africa. Being elected at the by all sorts of trafficking and also the illegal migration, and we have seen the fate of our migrants in Libya and elsewhere, which has revealed all the tragedy. The acceleration of continental integration is in fact helping the attainment of this objective through improvement of economic and financial governance in our member states. The Commission, beyond these stereotype statements in favor, that is, wants to concretely carry out actions that will have a positive impact in the life of our peoples and also the development prospects of our countries. It is obvious that these efforts will be, of course, better known if the legitimacy of our union, and that is if they are entrenched in the legitimacy of our union and in the conscience of our peoples and in the thoughts of our people. As you can see, the task is very huge, and obviously it is excruciating. No, we have no other choice but to succeed, and within an international marked by serious regression of multilateralism, a rise in national egoism, and a weakening of international solidarity. Therefore, the continent has to close its ranks and speak with one voice. The negotiations of post-Cotonou arrangements, which will soon be initiated, affords us the opportunity to highlight our unity and our cohesion. Since we henceforth have the African Common Position adopted by the Executive Council, adopted in Kigali in March, and all the member states have the duty and obligation to defend. Honorable President, ladies and gentlemen, one of the trends over the past decades is the decline in parliamentarism and the rise of executive power over the legislative power. In fact, within the Continental Union project, the role of the Pan-African Parliament is clear and essential as long as the legal provisions of the Union and instruments in this task will obviously sensitize our people and about the major problems that are at stake. obviously, the maintenance of the Pan-African Parliament to be just a consultative organ, in fact, will only limit the powers of this Parliament. Hence, the need to bring about the transformation that is so wished in order to system, which I know is positive. Honorable President, ladies and gentlemen, considering the commitment with which you are imbued, it is high time to ask the question, which is that spirit that is imbuing you with this force and that makes you transcend this situation? If the reply is Pan-Africanism, therefore we have different situations where we have abandonment, renunciation, and also to giving up on the deep motivation of African peoples. There is no shame in rethinking our approach to look at and adapt to the new exigencies of the requirements of Africa, our Africa. In fact, Pan-Africanism appears to be the other side of multilateralism to which we adhere and for which we militate. On all these fronts and in all these struggles, in the face of all these challenges, our only weapon, our invincible power is the same, that is our unity. I want to repeat, and what I've been saying elsewhere, with it we are everything, and without it we are nothing. My intimate hope is that with you, this will be a great day of African Union, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dr. Moussa Faki Mahamat, for your message. Extremely rich in terms of learning experiences for all of us, and we wish to reiterate that it is important that we work in synergy to try and come up with the United States of Africa thus desired by our founding fathers. And I think your commitment does give us hope that tomorrow will be better, for this Parliament, as you so rightly indicated, has been working tirelessly for 14 years, and despite our efforts, and these efforts I'm sure you're no doubt aware, and I reminded the meeting of them, we have never ceased to ask our governments to continue to fund our missions, and that, of course, it is in our quest and their quest to make sure that we continue to work for the peoples that we represent. And this money could have been used to treat malaria in various parts of the continent. I know that there is a human capital that is absolutely immense in this Parliament. So why don't you give us then the opportunity to express our intelligence? Mr. President, I think that your conclusions are full of hope for us, and we shall meet again to continue to discuss all these issues. Hopefully, time will come when solutions are going to be proposed. On behalf of the Pan-African Parliament, on behalf of the clerk and my management team, would like to say thank you very much for taking time to come and meet us here and represent our continental organization and to tell us what your objectives for the forthcoming month are. Thank you very much again for making time to come over. Sir. Honorable colleagues, let me invite the clerk to make announcements.
Thank you, Your Excellency, President of the Pan-African Parliament. Thank you, Your Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, our guest of honor. Honorable members, I have 4 announcements. The first one is that applications are being received now for new and for renewal of AU passports for honorable members. So the applications should be submitted in the parliamentary lounge starting today, and you have 1 week in which to submit the applications. We start today and we'll close on Monday, the 14th of May. For new applications, please be prepared to submit 2 passport photographs and your national passport. For renewals, please be ready to submit 2 passport photographs and the expiring African Union passport. My second announcement is that following the expiry of the term of the current Bureau of the Pan-African Parliament, I would like to announce to this August House vacancies in the Bureau of the Pan-African Parliament for the following positions: President of the Pan-African Parliament, First Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament, Second Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament, Third Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament, and Fourth Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament. Elections for these positions are scheduled for Thursday, 10th of May, 2018, which is this week, this coming Thursday, from 2:30 in the afternoon to 6 o'clock in the evening. Submissions were called for nominations of candidates from the regional caucuses for both the position of president and the positions of vice president on March 8, 2018. The closing date for receiving submissions of candidatures for all these 5 positions is Thursday, 10th of May at 8:30 to the office of the Clerk of the Pan-African Parliament. Following the elections, following the vacancies that we've just announced, we expect that the regional caucuses will submit nominations as they wish, and the closing date is 10th of May at 8:30. The submissions should be made to the office of the clerk. Similarly, there will be vacancies for the leaderships of the other organs of the parliament. So leadership of the caucuses, leadership of the permanent committees. And these are also scheduled for elections within the various caucuses and committees as indicated in the program. Let me consult my colleagues. My third announcement is to let you know the allocations of venues for the meetings scheduled for this afternoon. The West African Caucus is expected to meet from 2:30 this afternoon to 6 o'clock. And the West African Caucus has been allocated this chamber as the venue of their meeting. The Central African Region Caucus is expected to meet from 2:30 to 6 o'clock in committee room number 1. The East African Region Caucus is expected to meet from 2:30 to 6 o'clock in committee room number 2. The Southern Region Southern African Region Caucus is expected to meet from 2:30 to 6 o'clock in committee room number 3. The North African Region Caucus is expected to meet from 2:30 to 6 o'clock in committee room number 4. These are the allocations that we have made for you. My third announcement is that when we leave this chamber, kindly go to the right. When you exit, go to the right for a photo session with our honorable guest, His Excellency, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat. My last announcement is that it has pleased the Honorable President of the Pan-African Parliament, His Excellency Roger Nkodo Dang, to host a lunch. And you are all invited to that lunch. It will be at Gallagher. The lunch is in honor of our guest of honor, His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Secrétaire.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Thank you. Thank you, Clark. I would like to repeat the invitation for lunch, which the Pan-African Parliament is offering in the honor of His Excellency, the Chairperson of the AU Commission. We'll start with parliamentarians. We can go on discussing with the commissioners over lunch. I reiterate our invitation. Ambassadors, all our guests, the new members, everybody will have lunch at the Gallagher Center following the photo session. We have come now to the end of our proceedings. The session stands adjourned up to tomorrow, the 8th of May at 9. Thank you.
Honorable members, the delegation from the Comoros will join the Eastern Region Caucus. The delegation from Sao Tome and Principe will join the Central Africa Region Caucus.
Thank you.